Hello, Internet!
This is Tom from Dog and Thimble. We appreciate him being on Good and Basic, and today we are going to play a board game that is 5,000 years old and that nobody knows how to play. It's kind of backgammon-like, too, which is...
Yes, I've seen that. Apparently backgammon was... They theorized why this game died out a little bit. Or a lot of it.
So this is called the Royal Game of Ur, right? And it's from the city of Ur, which is in Mesopotamia, 5,000 years old. It's rediscovered in 1920 by a British gentleman named Leonard Woolley. And he finds 5 of these game boards, and they're all slightly different. And no rule book, right? So there's no instructions, right? So somebody has to piece together how to play it.
Yep.
And there are actually competing versions of the rules. So the version that came with this game set plays it like a strategy game. There's a curator at the British Museum named Irving Finkel, and he's worked out what he thinks the rules are, where it's constructed, instead of as a strategy game, it's a race game. So that's the one we're going to do today.
Okay.
Okay. So the way it works is, first of all, you get 4 dice. Oops. I get 4 dice. And notice that these dice are tetrahedrons, and 2 corners are marked white. And so if it's marked white, that counts as a 1, basically. And so the way it works is that will count as a 1, and that will be a 1 too, and that will be a 1, and I'm very lucky right now.
And that'll be a 0.
And that'll be a 0. There we go. And so because 2 corners are marked white, it's basically like flipping a coin.
Yep.
Then you roll 4 of them, right? So that will come out as a 1, right? 3 blacks, 1 white.
Okay.
All right, now for the pieces. Each side gets 7 pieces, and we'll select who's white and who's black in just a second.
Okay.
We can do it nice and fair, nothing up my sleeve, except for my arms. So you start with 7 pieces, and the way it will work is that all your pieces start off the board.
Yep.
And my pieces are going to start over here and work their way up this line, up through this line, and out through here.
Got it.
And your pieces are going to start off the board here and go up through this line, and out through here.
All right.
And the game ends when somebody gets all their pieces onto and then off the board.
All right.
Okay, awesome. Let's go ahead and do this selection, and then we'll decide what we're doing. Okay, and we'll just go white goes first.
All right. I'll
Chest
go
down.
down.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Well, you did beat us at Nefertafel, and I think 9 Man's Morris last time, so it's time for my revenge.
Actually slaughtered me.
It's time for my revenge.
Morris.
It's time for some revenge.
Yep.
If the Mesopotamian gods will smile upon me. Okay, so the way it will work is so I would roll the dice.
Right.
And so my count here comes out to 3. And so what I can do is I can move any one of my pieces off the board or on the board 3 spaces.
Yep.
So in this case, I only have one choice. I'd have to move it here.
All right.
Now, say for instance now that I roll another 3, I can't put another piece there. You can't double up pieces, right?
Yep. So that makes sense.
It has to move forward, so on and so forth, right? If you roll a 0, then you roll a 0 and you're out of luck.
All right. Prepare for me to get several zeros in a row.
It's so disappointing when it happens.
I am traditionally very bad at rolling dice. One of these is going to end up in that water cup. I can feel it in my bones.
Awesome. Let's suppose that I had rolled a 3, right? And then I roll again on my next turn, and I end up rolling. I'm just going to manufacture my dice roll. I won't do this during the game, I promise. I get a 1. If you land on one of these flower pieces, then you get an extra turn.
All right.
So I'd be able to roll again. And of course, if I were lucky enough to roll a 4 this time around, then I can move straight here and do another turn.
Right.
So you can do that in a limited number of times in any one turn.
Got it.
Right?
You can basically just chain them together as long as you can get to a flower.
Correct.
Got it.
Now, another important thing, you may notice that since I'm moving through here and you're moving through here, these 4 spaces and these 2 spaces are safe for each of us respectively.
Right.
And this middle section is contested. Now, if you were here, for example, and you were to roll a 2, then, let's do it here instead for just a moment. If you were to roll a 2, then you can move forward, take that space, and my piece gets knocked off the board.
Okay.
The exception to that is that this is a totally safe space. If there is a piece here, and I were to roll a 3 here, I cannot knock you off.
Okay.
You would have to deoccupy yourself. So, And to get off the board, you need to roll a perfect. You need to roll the exact number that you need to
Okay,
get
so
off.
you can't roll over.
You can't roll over.
And obviously, if you rolled under, you would not be off the board.
Correct.
Got it.
Right. So there, you would need to roll exactly a 2. You know, it's like the holy hand grenade of Antioch from Monty Python.
Okay.
You know, thou shalt roll a 2. Thou shalt not roll a 3. Neither shalt thou roll a 4. And then neither shalt thou roll a 1, excepting that thou then rollest another 1.
Okay.
Okay, I think I've described everything. Other than that, all the board spaces are just arbitrary.
All right.
It's just the flowers that matter, and this is the only flower that's, well, it's a safe space.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Now, I am going to ask a question.
Go right ahead.
Is there any significance to the fact that, and I'm not sure if the camera can see this, but I guess I'm just going to show that.
Go right ahead.
Is there any significance to the fact that these have 5 dots on them?
You know, that's a thing we've wondered about, and you need to remember it's a 5,000-year-old game with no rule book.
Oh, so it's just
we're
one pit for
making
every
our best.
1,000 years.
There you go, that's it.
We're like, oh,
obviously.
this is going to get played on some YouTube channel, just put...
In 5,000 years, therefore put 5 dots on it, one
That
for
makes
every
sense.
1,000 years, symbolic number.
Yeah.
So, as far as the significance of the 5 dots, and they're on every board set that I've ever seen, I don't know any significance.
Okay.
And it's also true that, you know, aside from the flowers, there are lots of other, you know, kind of intricate designs here, and we
Right.
have no idea.
Yeah. There's a lot of 5s on here.
Yeah, there are, right?
It shows up everywhere.
5 dots, yeah,
5
4s
circles,
in the
4s,
yeah.
more 5s.
5 dots inside. You got a combination between 5 and 4 here, so that's kind of cool.
Okay.
Yeah. So beyond that, I have no idea what's going on.
Those designs do come into play in the rule instructions that came with the game. So
Okay.
with this particular board game, it did not include any of the instructions for the race game at all.
Ah.
However, if you look on the internet right now, the only instructions you will find for how to play the game are different versions of the race game. And then, you know, in this particular version, which has the strategy game version, all of those designs become useful. I don't know if the 5s become useful because I don't see a way to make it otherwise.
No, I don't know.
Maybe you flip them over.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. You can make a variant of the game where they're different if they're flipped over.
Kind of like checkers.
Huh, that'd be interesting. So, well, there we go. I think we're ready to jump in unless you have any questions.
No, I'm good.
Okay,
Let's
here
do
we
this
go.
thing.
And of course, I have won the right to roll first, so here we go. Move that out of the way. And I'm going to roll a 3. Consider that to be a fairly auspicious beginning, and of course, I'm just going to go ahead and place my piece there and
All right.
turn it over to you.
I will do the same.
Okay,
I also rolled 3.
there we go.
So, there we are.
All right. And I'll go. I've rolled a 2. Okay, and I choose to load up my little bank of 4 squares here, my bank of 4 safe squares.
Okay. That is a 4.
Oh.
So I'm going to jump onto there,
Savage.
and I'll just take another
Are you
turn.
sure you have bad dice rolls? It doesn't look like it.
Just watch.
Okay, well, I'll be watching.
That's a 3.
Okay.
So I can't really do anything in terms of moving a new piece onto the board.
Correct.
So I'm going to have to just move on up. And I think what I want to do here is... Yeah, I think I'm going to have to move this guy 1, 2, and 3, just because that makes it slightly less likely that you land on him.
Yeah. That's what I would have done too. Okay.
It also positions me, knowing my bad dice rolls, to get a 1.
There you go. You're taking advantage of your bad luck. Okay, well, I've rolled a 1, so I'm going to go ahead and get the extra turn.
You got it.
Now, there's something interesting here because you'd think you want to rush ahead, but of course now, in some sense, I'm in a superior position, at least for
Yeah.
these 2 pieces, because I can come after you.
Knock that off.
Exactly. If I roll a 3. If I roll a 3. And it's a 2. And so I can't move a new piece on, I can't advance this piece, so I have to go here.
All right.
And it's off to you.
Okay.
As far as things go, that was pretty unlucky.
You had many options. That is a 2. So I will go, let's see. 1, 2, that doesn't help me. I can bring a new guy onto the board though, and that's probably what I want to do.
There is a calculation. It's the same
Yeah.
calculation that I do, where it's like, do I want to expose myself,
Yep.
or do I want to keep on building up a bank of these little pieces?
Yeah, fine gentlemen, or ladies, or pieces.
2. Okay, well, I'm actually going to grab that safe space, and of course I'll get to roll another turn.
That makes sense.
And I roll another 2, which means that I'm going to be rolling
Just
again.
keep on chaining.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, come on, buddy.
Ah, the good old caltrop dice. The most dangerous item in board games.
Is that what they call it in D&D?
It's just caltrops.
That's awful. And you know exactly why, too. And I've rolled another 2. So, and I'm going to choose to load up my safe spaces.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and see what we can do here.
Okay.
That's a 2. So I think I'm going to hop on over to here. Take another roll. That's a 4. Let's
Another
see.
4.
Now normally, if you weren't on this safe space, I'd be ecstatic about this.
Yeah.
So, let's see. I can't jump onto him. I can't jump there because that would also be 4. So I guess I have to move this guy 1, 2, 3, and 4 ahead.
All right.
And that will pass it over to you.
Makes sense to me. Oh!
That's the fun thing about binary dice, is it's possible to lose your turn entirely. And with
That's the thing you
six-sided
can't do
die-
with 6-sided die.
6-sided die, the worst you can get is a 1. Your downside has been capped.
Yeah. But I'm fresh out. Go ahead. I've lost my
Alright.
turn.
Let's do this thing. That's a 2, so I'm going to go... Let's see, what's my best move here? I think it's probably just 2. Actually, yeah, let's go 1 and 2, and let's make that guy safe.
That's what I would have done. It's helpful to know the statistical breakdown of each number, right? And it's 3/8 chance that you get a 2, and I believe it's 2/8 chance that you get a 1, 2/8 chance that you get a 3, so 1/4 each. And then the last 1/8 is split, and you have a 1/16 chance of getting a 0, like I just did,
Right.
and a 1/16 chance of getting a 4, which you've done twice.
I'm very good at this game, it turns out.
As it turns out. Okay, 2. Well, and I have a pretty restricted set of options, so I'm going to choose to go ahead and move that piece forward and go right ahead.
Let's go ahead and keep this train rolling. That's a 3. So, that's not going to be good there. I can't move a new guy onto the board. So, I think again what I want to do here is I just want to free up this space and go 1, 2, and 3.
Makes sense to me too. You know, whenever I leave that space and run out into the central column, I feel a little like a raccoon running across a freeway. You know, am I going to get run over this time? And not this time.
Yep.
So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this guy out of danger rather than move forward.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and roll that up. That's a 4. So, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Can't do that. Can't move a new... Oh, no, I could move a new guy onto the board, so let's do that. And take another go. Alright, and that's a 1, so I'm going to move him to here. That is a 3, so I think, let's see, 1, 2, and 3. Let's just go ahead and move this 1, 2, and 3 up to there.
Interesting. You know, one of the things that I find, I keep thinking about the strategic value of that central position, right? Because it's a position from which you cannot be dislodged. A 1, and I'll go ahead and make that guy safe.
That sounds like a reasonable plan.
But it's also a position that if you free up, you can potentially take and get extra turns. There's another strategic value to holding that position is that if pieces get ahead, you can snipe them. And you know, if you snipe a piece when it's back here, you know, it's not very
fine.
nice, right? But when you're up here, that really bites.
Yeah.
That really bites. So.
All right. Well, let's see what we can do. All right, so that's a 3. And I think I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3, and take an extra go. That's a 2, so I'm going to move this guy off of the board.
Okay, and shall we designate it by putting it over here? I think
Yeah.
that's probably a good way to do it.
That works for me.
You know, I find it kind of interesting that the way you play this game is, you know, imagining that all your pieces are here in this little cavity, they end up the same place where they began.
Yeah.
Right? So it's this sort of like circle of life. Or if you have a more pessimistic view on things, it's kind of a rat race.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe they just bail out to the side.
Yeah. Okay, into 2. those twos have not been very friendly for me this game. I'll go ahead and move this piece off, and
That makes sense.
at least we've got an even score, but not for long, because you're going to get that one off pretty soon, I expect.
Yeah, well, that's another 2. So, let's see. Do I want to move them out? Probably not. Let's just line them up.
And I'm going to roll a 3, and I also am going to choose to load up home base.
All right.
So
Let's just.
we'll see what happens. Who wants to be the raccoon that runs across the road first?
All right. So, I think the best thing for me to do here. I mean, the problem is, right, that with you loaded up on that side, essentially, anything is going to leave me open to getting taken here. So I've just got to go 1, 2, and 3 and hope that you just roll ones.
You know, I've been thinking about that a little bit, because in that position, you really don't have any other options.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can move forward these, but that's even worse.
Right.
Right, it leaves you more open to attack.
Yeah, and the other benefit there is, of course, that it opens up
Correct.
your flower. So
And so I wonder if, like, I'm thinking about how the Mesopotamians would have thought about this game, right? You know, maybe like as the circle of life, right? Or maybe as, you know, there's this other thing where, you know, sometimes you have to make a choice, and sometimes you don't have that great of choices, and you still have to make a choice. And hope for the best, and you've got the best. So
sometimes things
is
work
rough.
out.
Can we switch dice? This is not good.
All
I think
right.
my dice are unlucky.
That is a 1. I think, do I want to move it off, or do I want to just take another turn? And I think the answer there is I just want to move forward. So, yeah, let's actually just move him to there. And take that spot and protect myself a little bit. And see what comes up on another roll. That is a 2. So, I will hop him forward to there and just keep going.
Yep.
Another 2. Let's just go here. 1 and 2.
Oh.
And the first take.
Yep. You know, I've been thinking also about that, where
Yeah.
you were able to take 3 turns in a row, right?
Yeah.
And hey, that's pretty great. And how, you know, kind of trying to understand how they might have thought about this, how there are certain opportunities that set you up for more opportunities, and you might want to, you know, sort of sit on your flower and forget about that. And it's like, no, it's better to sort of abandon that safe position and open it up, so that later on you can well make 3 turns in one go.
Exactly.
You know, and there you go. Okay. Oh, and a 2. Come on. It's so bad. This is so bad.
No, it's great.
I'm glad that that's how you feel. Oh, a 3.
Yeah, so you
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and bump you
Take some
right off the
revenge.
board there. And
I'll take
hopefully
that.
I'm relatively safe there. You'd have to roll a 3, and you have a 1/4 chance of doing that, but, you know, those are odds that I'll take.
Show me 3. That's a 3.
Ah, you gotta be kidding. Okay. Maybe I can get one of those 3/8 chance of a 2. And it's a 3. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to abandon this position, move up here, because I think it's a relatively low chance. It's only a 1/4 chance that you're going to get a 1.
I think that's a
And a
very
3/4
fair.
chance that you'll get something else. So that's a risk I'm going to take.
All right. So let's do that, and that's a 4.
That's your third 4.
Yep.
My
So I'm going to bring a new guy onto the board, and then I will continue rolling.
Now you have a 1/2 chance of getting what you need to bump me off.
That is a 2.
But it was the other half this time.
So I think the best thing I can do is just go ahead and actually bring a new guy onto the board.
That's what I would have done, I think. You know, there's a calculation there, right? Should I abandon that position, try to move it forward, and you want to choose the right time?
It's I'm feeling comfortable about that, though.
Okay.
I think that's probably the right decision for
And
me.
that's a 3. And I'm... You know, I could move that piece forward,
You could.
but I'm thinking he feels a little like the proverbial raccoon crossing a freeway, and so I'm going to actually load up the... I don't know, you know, sort of the calculation that I'm doing is, you know, if he's up here, then he's still very likely to get hit, and so I don't really improve anything by
No, I think that's
moving him
probably the
forward.
right move. I mean, it keeps him somewhat safe, because now you're basically calculating, do I think it's worth it to bump him off, where I could also just move a guy off the board.
Yeah.
And start scoring points, given that I seem to be incapable of rolling a 1 these last few turns. That's a 0.
The luck is turning. The Mesopotamian gods are back on my side, perhaps. 2. What can I do with a 2? What can I do with a 2?
Well, unfortunately, you can't take anyone.
That's correct.
So,
I think I'm going to load up home base, and although I know that the longer I leave that there, the greater the probability.
right.
That
I still think bringing a new guy onto the board is safer. I mean, it seems like that would just be a better way to go about things, is because, one, that gives you more options to take anything that remains in here.
Yeah.
As long as your flower's open, you still have a good chance of being able to
3/8
start marching
chance.
anything forward. So,
Yeah.
let's see what we got. That's a 1. So, now the question is, do I take that while I can? Let's see, you then have to roll 1, 2, 3, or a 4, or a 1 and then a subsequent 3.
Or a 2 and then a
Yeah,
subsequent
or a 2 and then a subsequent 3. So,
or a 4 and then a subsequent 3.
right.
But
So
we all know that I
think-
don't roll 4s, so.
I think what I want to do here is I am just going to end up taking this guy. As
what I
painful as it is for
yeah.
not scoring, because I want to free that up, but...
There's an interesting calculation with these ones at the end here, because in these 2 boxes they're safe.
Exactly. So
But they're also not points in the bag.
Yeah.
Right, and so one thing that can happen is you can actually get this section too crowded sometimes. and then I can come up from behind and snap
just
off all those
start
pieces because
getting
there's a
them.
backlog, right? Like
Yeah, exactly.
Like a fire escape out of a movie theater.
It's a morbid thought.
And a 1, okay, well I'm going to go ahead and grab that extra turn and let's hope that I get a lucky 3.
Or a 4.
Or a 4, which will do me no good, unfortunately, because there's only one thing I can do with it. 1, 2, 3,
And 4.
4.
All right, so let's see what we've got with this. All right, a 3. So I could start moving some things away. And let's see. 3. Okay, that puts him a little bit in a slightly better position, not by much. I could bring my last person onto the board here. So I think what I want to do in this case is probably just go ahead and move him forward. So let's go 1, 2, and 3, and hope you don't roll a 4.
Yeah, I think that's about as, given my track record, I think you're probably pretty safe. I think that's what I would have done too, especially because to sort of sneak up on him, I'd have to get a 3.
Yeah.
Right, which is not the most likely roll, so. But you never know.
A 2.
I'm going to get a 2, and I think I'm going to use that 2. Of course, I can't move him forward, and what I would really like to do is to move him forward, because he's in a very vulnerable position. I think what I'm going to have to do is to continue loading things up.
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
Well, this is, I beat the computer many times, and now
Okay. So I've got a 2 now. So I'm just going to go ahead and move that up. Let's move that off the board and free up the flower again.
1. That's also disappointing. And I'm going to free up the flower and also hopefully get in a better position to snipe some of your pieces.
That's fair.
But we'll see. We'll see. I'm not feeling terribly optimistic, although the late game is very interesting, so we'll see what happens.
All right. So that's another 2. So unfortunately, oh no, I can move this guy forward and I can get the flower again and take another roll at this. And I think that's probably my best move. It's just keep getting as many moves as I can. All right, 3. So that is 2 and 3. 1, 2, and 3. I could put him into a safe position, and I think that might be my best move here. It's just to move 1, 2, and 3, and that then opens it up if I roll a 1 or a 2,
Correct.
which seems likely.
Strictly speaking, there should be a
Yeah,
2/8 plus 3/8, so a 5/8 chance of getting at least one of those, right?
right.
But, there's a Terry Pratchett quote I'm fond of: the 1,000,000 to 1 chances crop up 9 times out of 10. So, Okay, well, I'm going to grab that extra turn.
That makes a lot of sense.
Notice I'm kind of trying to play it safe here, but that may not be smart. Sometimes you have to run out and take your chances. And a 3. I just can't seem to get what I want. I cannot seem to get what I want.
Well, it's like the song says, you can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need.
Apparently the universe thinks what I need is to lose miserably.
Humility is an important virtue.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Alright, so let's go ahead and I think I'm just going to move him forward again and hope that I can outrun this a little bit and just go 1, 2, and 3.
So that seems to me to be pretty smart. And this has a dual advantage to holding that center position is, on the one hand, you can snipe pieces that get ahead, but it also deprives me of even just a space for movement. If I roll a 3 here, then I can't advance that piece forward.
That just feels nice.
So we all know I'm going to roll a 4.
That's a 3.
Oh, very close, very close, very close.
I liked the optimism going into it.
I'm doing my best here. So I'm going to go ahead and move this piece forward because it opens up the flower, but then also, well, I have 2 pieces that are pretty vulnerable here, but we'll see.
Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's do some rolling. Okay, so that's a 2.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So I think in this situation, my best move is just to score and free this space up a little bit. I'm feeling comfortable in that. I think I'm happy if I'm happy in this position because even if I lose that piece, I'm still slightly ahead. I have the opportunity to move some pieces onto the board, so I think that's probably where I want to be.
I would say even that you're probably 2 points ahead because in some sense I regard these as, points roughly in the bag.
Right.
Although things can get a little tricky at the end. Okay, I've rolled a 3, which is not quite what I wanted, but since when have I gotten what I wanted in this game? So, a
4.
Although that protects me, so actually I should be grateful.
Yeah. Okay, so...
And you can't take advantage of that 4 with either of your flowers, so...
Yeah.
I'm actually feeling pretty good about this.
2, 3, and 4. But I can move this guy into safety. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Raising your tentative hypothetical lead to 3. A fact about which I am very put out. And I roll a 1.
That's not bad. You have a flower open.
Well, that's true. In fact, I think I'm going to take advantage of that in the hopes that I can roll something a little more substantial to get this guy out of danger.
That makes sense.
Of course, I can't roll anything more substantial than that to get him out of danger.
Again, I love the optimism. Alright, so let's see. That is a 3. So I'm going to go ahead and finally abandon this middle position to send him back. Hope for the best, expect the worst.
Some drink champagne, some die of thirst. We all know which category I'm in right now.
Champagne!
One of the things that I kind of do like about luck games, though, is that they do kind of embody a little bit of that optimism. It's like, look, man, the dice have just been, running me over all game.
You can feel a little bit better about yourself knowing that you did everything you could. You played to the best of what you were given.
Well, and also, my luck may change.
Yeah, exactly.
I could get 2 3s in a row here, or not. I didn't want that 3 anyway.
No.
Maybe it's that I'm talking about it. One of the things Irving Finkel says is, you don't want to state out loud what you want because that's, it's not respectful to the Mesopotamian gods. Instead, you just want to sort of think it, and then they work it out for you, and it just sort of happens, and that's how it's supposed to work.
I regret to inform you that I've rolled a 3, so I will be sending him back to the start.
I would just like to comment that this is probably the single most abysmal game I've played with this. This is, wow. This is not good.
Marduk, where are you now?
Well, I'm gonna just chase you and hope, and I believe you've only got 1 more piece in your behind. I have 5 behind. This is getting a little alarming.
Alright, so that's a 3. 1, 2. I can't unfortunately.
So notice that you're starting to get plugged up at the end.
But I can move, and let's say 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I can move him out of theoretical danger. Kind of, because you could roll a 3 and then keep jumping forward.
And that's one of the things that, despite the very simple mechanics of this game, has kind of intrigued me, is the fact that there is no safe move here.
Yep.
There is no safe move. Right, and you can kind of balance the probabilities and take a good guess, right?
Yeah.
There's no safe move.
Except for your very first turn.
Yeah, correct.
Did it.
And I just, I think that's a lot like life, is that, whatever you do and wherever you go, there will be risks.
Yep.
And you can mitigate those risks and you can calculate those risks, but at the end of the day, we're all making decisions in the face of, a fair amount of uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going to go ahead and move him forward. I'm kind of hoping that you'll get a little plugged up here and that I'll be able to sneak forward and even the score.
I think that's a reasonable choice. That's a 4, so let's go ahead and move him onto the board. And let's roll again. That's a 3.
Oh my gosh.
So let's just send him
Oh
back
my
to
gosh,
the
I
beginning.
haven't even knocked a single piece of yours off the board. To all you YouTubers who are watching, I have played probably, 20 games of this against a computer, and this is an unusual game.
I've played never. Beginner's luck.
We know who is favored by the Mesopotamian gods here. I hope you add that to your resume.
Yeah, no, it's already on there.
Oh, okay, all right. Host of Dog and Thimble board game podcast, board game reviewer, favored by the Mesopotamian gods.
Yeah. All right, that's a 0, so go ahead.
Okay, all right. All right, well.
A good old-fashioned 3.
Well, I'm still just going to keep on racing forward, because I think you're going to get locked up at the end there, and I might be able to just knock a few of these out.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
That will waste a lot of your turns.
So that's a 2, so I'm just going to move him off of the board.
Oh,
And
no.
2.
No.
All right.
Okay. Coming up behind you. Round 2. First blood for me. Like, after you've already knocked like 5 of my pieces off. But,
All right, here we go. That's a 2.
okay.
So, let's see, what do I think is going to be best here? Do I want to move forward, or do I want to bring my last guy onto the board to potentially have that option later? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I am going to move him here, because that puts me in a position that if I roll any number, I have a decent result. So,
That's another thing I've thought about with this game, is that there's actually some interesting positions you can work yourself into where
Right.
you can roll something and you still don't have a move.
yeah.
Even when you're rolling a non-zero number, and so there's sort of a dimension of this game that I haven't mastered at all, but that I'm vaguely aware of, that you want to, as far as possible, ensure that you always have at least one possible move,
Yeah.
other than 0. And a 1. Okay. Well, I'm going to capture that spot.
That makes a lot of sense. It's a good spot to have.
And a 2.
Do you want to send me back, or do you want to get onto the board?
I want to send you back.
All right.
I'm gonna
I think that's a very
send you
reasonable
back.
position to
So,
take. All right, so let's go ahead and let's do some rolling. That's a 2. So I think what to do here is probably move there so that I can get onto a flower and then see what happens.
and then there's a gamble there. If you roll a 3 now, you're a little out with this piece.
But I have one here, so that I still have a move.
You still have a
And that's a 3. So, let's see. Yeah, I'm just going to have to bring him onto the board. It's not ideal, but, we take what we get.
It's true. It's true. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And I have 0 interest in safety at the particular moment.
Okay.
Instead, I want to increase my ability to perhaps knock some of your pieces off.
So that makes a lot of sense to me. So, okay. That's a 2. So, I think I am going to move him to safety at this point.
Which, fortunately only puts you 2 points ahead with 2 additional pieces in the safe space, and me just, 1 little piece trailing up. So,
Yeah.
so I would say things are fine. This is fine.
okay.
This is fine. Everything's
This is
fine.
fine.
Yeah, exactly. A 3, huh? Well, I don't particularly want to move that piece forward, so I'm actually going to make him safe.
I think that's a good decision. For whatever my opinion means to you.
Well, this is the worst I'm ever going to lose, assuming I do lose. So.
Alright, so I've got a 2, so I am just going to move him off of the board and keep this a little bit cleaner for me up here.
Wow.
It's okay. I could just never roll a 1 again.
You know, and this is interesting. A couple times I played against the computer, it's come down, you know, and I've had a couple pieces back here, and they just have the 1 piece here, right?
Yeah.
And I still managed to win. Just, you know, you get a little lucky sometimes. 3. Well, I am out of options as far as that goes, so here we go, and I'm about to lose that piece.
Oh, we don't know that for sure.
Well, if you get either a 2 or a 3, so that's a 5/8 chance.
That's a 3, so yeah, I'm sorry.
We all kind of know which way this is going. You know, and I know the Mesopotamians gambled at this game quite well, that's my understanding, so, you know, at this point in the game, I'm calculating how much I'm going to lose.
So I'm going to move this guy into this middle spot for 2. And then just keep on rolling and see how this pans out. It's a 3, so I think the plan here is just go ahead, 1, 2, and 3. And hope that you don't roll a series of
2, and then a 4, and then a 3.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, well.
And it happens.
I may come back. Oh, there's a 4, there's a 4. There's a 4. I'm in the game. I'm in the game.
It's happening!
And I'm back out of the game. Well, let's see. I don't want to move him here because I'm a little afraid of that one, so I'll go ahead and move this one off and get my second point of the game. So I'm
Sounds
doing
reasonable.
Instead of thinking of it as I only have half as many points as you, I prefer to think of it as I'm 2 behind.
Exactly. Alright, so I've got a 2, and I think the plan here is just to go ahead and move myself to safety. Again, I've got a series of moves I can make with this guy, so that's fine, and if I roll a 1 or a 2, I'm not too fussed about it.
Correct.
So,
and I'm going to get a 2, which means that I have to venture out. I cannot seem to catch any breaks at all in this game.
alright, so let's roll. That's a 2. So the question is, do I score or do I take your piece? And I think the answer is that I am going to be a jerk and I'm going to take the piece and just remain
That is
aggressive.
also what I would do. Now, you're plugged up over here, right?
Yeah.
There's a bottleneck. Mm-hmm. So perhaps even if you run up here, I'll still be able to catch up.
That's exactly
But
right.
you got to bear in mind that I'm 4 behind, so I need to roll a 4 to take you out this turn, or 2 twos, right?
Yep.
Which means that you have a decent chance of running all the way up, getting just one nice lucky roll here.
Yep.
Right, like that's a reasonable probability.
That's a bad...
Turns out it's a very reasonable probability.
Okay. So let's
Million
just,
to 1 chances crop up 9 times out of 10.
let's see how this goes. It's a 1. I'm going to score that while I can, and that also opens up a flower, which is nice.
Yeah. 1.
Okay. Let's
See, now if this were the game of life, and this was a particular employment I had chosen, it's now time for me to start looking for a new job. This is an omen that whatever I'm doing here, nope, we need to switch things up. So,
if it were the board game, the game of life, this would be the part where the car just flies off of the little track that it's on. And that's a 2, so I think the move here, I could score, or I could take this piece, make sure he's safe, and get a second roll, which also gives me the opportunity to roll again, knowing that any space is a movement for this guy. So, let's do that. And that's a 3, so I am forced to do that. 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to say go ahead.
a 2. Of all things, a 2. So I'm thinking about your turn now, because I'm just calculating things. And I'll comment now that the best I've ever beaten a computer has been 7-3.
Okay.
So you are about to probably, we'll see, beat my personal record.
Okay.
So there we go. So if you roll a 1, then you can start moving him forward. If you roll a 3, you can start moving him forward. If you roll a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, then you can just get him right off the board. So almost no matter what, he's going to be able to.
Yeah, I've got to move in any situation because I can
Yes.
also move him if it's a 2.
So now, if you got a 2, then of course you can't move him. You'd have to move him off. So if you were to get a 2, then maybe I can jump off some flowers.
Right.
There's just the slightest chance, right? So one of the questions is, should I move with my 2 here? Should I move him forward and try to expose myself to some positive risk here, or is it better to go ahead and move forward?
Right.
If I'm here, then I can get a 2, but then I have to get a 4, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do that,
Okay.
knowing that all those calculations will probably mean nothing.
All right. That's a 2, so I'm just going to get him off of the board.
Okay. We'll see if I can do a double 3. Nope, I cannot. Okay. All right. Well, courage or no? I would say diligence is doing things when you don't think that they're going to accomplish anything. So that's what I'm doing right now. Is
Fair
practicing the virtue of diligence.
All right, here we go. So the question is, can I roll a 4? I cannot. I can get a 2. 1 and 2. So now I need a 2 or a 1 to continue moving.
Correct.
And that's it. It's just coming down to whether or not I can get this.
And now my 4 comes in, so that's positive.
Yeah, no, that's real good.
Need to look for the silver lining.
Watch as you now get a series of 4s that carry you to victory on this round. Or a 2. I mean, I guess that
Or a
can
2.
happen as
Or
well.
a 2. A 2 can happen. A 2 is definitely possible. I'll go ahead and move him forward.
Okay. So, let's see. Come on, show me anything good. That's a 3, I cannot do anything. 1, 2, and nothing.
See, so the end game can get a little tricky. And actually, this didn't happen in this game, but one thing I've noticed is that particularly the last 2 are very difficult to get through.
I imagine.
Especially if you have a very, if you've gotten a large lead over your opponent, because he'll have so many of these counters
Right.
behind, and he can just load them up and keep on moving them forward, and he's got so many options.
Right, and at this point it's just, can I roll a 2 before you can get everyone in?
Yep. The answer to that question is yes, but
Probably. You'd hope.
3.
Otherwise this is a very, otherwise this is just like the Mesopotamian gods just saying, come on, nope.
Yeah.
Just pulling the rug out from under me.
Those Mesopotamian gods. Perhaps I should have moved something forward so that I could at least, so that you wouldn't beat my personal record for how bad I've beaten a computer.
And that's a 3, so I cannot move again.
Okay, alright, well. And that's a 3. So still not quite what I want, but since when have I gotten what I wanted? So.
Okay, so I'm just going to continue rolling and hope for the best. Another 3.
There's the 3. Okay, alright.
3 is for the rest of time.
Okay, 2. So I'm going to go ahead and try to grab that extra turn.
That makes a lot of sense.
But what I'm hoping now, my personal goal in this game is to at least get one more piece off the board. At least one more piece off the board. And that's a 1, so I'll go ahead and grab the extra turn.
Yeah.
And that's a 4.
That's another one onto a flower.
Okay, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. And that's a 1.
See, there you go.
Scored 3.
You got what you wanted.
You need to be careful what you ask the Mesopotamian gods for.
Yeah. That's a 2. 1 and 2.
That's so funny.
I had to wait.
That's almost
until
exactly
you got
structured.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The Mesopotamian god said, Joseph thinks he's going to do pretty well in this game, so let's just take him down a peg and have him lose 3 to 7. Right? But let's not utterly humiliate him. Let's make it so that it's still only as good as the best game he's ever played. Yeah.
Kindness.
Yes. Okay. Well, I guess I can get along with the Mesopotamian gods about that. So.
There you go.
All right, well, so we're going to talk about this a lot more on your podcast, and we'll be linking that in the description and producing a card here so that you can go and check that out. But I'm just curious if, a few quick thoughts. What do you think about the game we played? What do you think about the game in general?
So, it is interesting, right? Because it's a fairly decent... It's an interesting blend of luck and strategy, especially for being an older game where they've just made, binary dice, which can be very cruel.
As we discussed.
The zeros, just especially having to roll perfectly to get off at the end. It does make you structure how you're going to move your pieces, sort of when you deploy them, when you get onto the board, which is an interesting way to structure things, just because it does make it more than just, roll high, win the game, which is a problem that many games since have had this sort of issue of you either want to roll really high because it's just a race game, like, you know, a Chutes and Ladders, that kind of thing. The games that we all played as kids and we all hate now.
Yeah.
Those are boring games now. This is more interesting because it does say, well, you know, you have to roll perfectly in order to leave and do what you want to do. You're limited on these sort of safe spots. There's, you know, a total of 7, assuming you count this middle piece. So, where you're going to take things, sort of where you're going to place and move, and also how much you value certain things and just value the safety of your pieces can, I think, really change the overall strategy of things, because it almost incentivizes you from where I'm sitting, that you just want to take that spot and never move off of it. Because the ability to block people from moving out of this zone and just block them up here is huge. It just means that, okay, if I take this and then I just load this up and gradually take stuff whenever they move into this danger zone, then that seems just like, okay, well, that's just so valuable to have that spot.
Yeah.
So just the existence of this one piece that you can't take it is a really big sort of interesting design choice.
Yeah, especially like what you said, that you know, it's not just a matter of getting a high roll; it's a matter of choosing your rolls properly. You know, that even a low roll can be the thing you really want to do, right? Especially if, you know, if you're here and trying to get here, if you're trying to bump off a particular piece, right? Yeah.
I mean, how many times were we sitting here looking? Oh, I really just want a 2.
Yeah.
I want a 2 so I can bump you off.
And you get a 3 or
and then it's a 3 or a 1 or a 4, and you're just like, come on.
Yeah.
All I wanted was one number, and it's the most likely number to be rolled.
Okay, well, you know, I have to say, if I was going to get humiliated by anyone playing the Royal Game of I'm just glad it was you, I suppose, right? So either I need to play a lot more games or a lot less games. It's not totally clear.
Yeah, it may just be that this is the first time, so you get one free.
No, it is actually remarkable, because again, the best I've ever beaten a computer is 7 to 3, right? And so I'm curious, right? And, you know, statistical outliers are definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm a little curious if perhaps maybe I was adapting to play against sort of the computer algorithm. You know, it'd be interesting to try to construct different algorithms to play this game. You know, do you privilege moving pieces forward? Do you privilege taking pieces? Do you privilege making a vacant space on the flower? Do you privilege storing up a bank here?
Yeah, so that
do you privilege moving pieces off the end versus moving things into the middle? Right, and that'd be interesting, you know, just to run, well, you know, and it seems like this is a game that might be able to be solvable in the sense that you could, I mean...
solvable insofar as there's sort of a strategy that could emerge that is dominant and makes it so that the best position that you can put yourself in is always to load up these safe zones, or always to get on this flower, and then, you know, everything else sort of comes secondarily. Whereas, you know, it might not be the case that, oh, you just kind of, you want to move everything up.
Yeah.
And it might be a case that you want to hold back and let other people move just so you can just take everything.
Yeah, for such a simple game, you know, very simple dice, basically a coin flip, right? And such a simple game mechanic. There's a remarkable amount of complexity.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming, you know, you're the board game expert here. I'm assuming it's clearly not as complex as so many board games that are available today.
That's true. It's definitely a simpler game, but there's value in that. I mean, there are games that have come out recently that are just micro games, that it's like, okay, no, this is literally just like rock, paper, scissors, but it's been evolved slightly by adding just little layers of complexity. So just, you know, I think that there's definitely room to sort of take this idea and this model of sort of limiting your space and making these sort of hard choices about what are you going to do, where are you going to move people, where are you going to load things up, do you have more bottleneck points, and that would be an interesting place to sort of take off, where it could just be this very interesting, smart, sort of more complicated version.
Yeah.
But the downside to that, of course, is that, you know, it takes a long time to learn those games, and sometimes by adding those layers of complexity, you're not actually improving the game, you're just making it more obtuse.
Yeah.
And it's less enjoyable because of it. I mean, this is a fun game because it's sort of like, you know, there's a term in modern gaming called analysis paralysis, or just AP. And this
it's funny that I know exactly what you're talking about outside of a board game context. I think it's so funny that that's something that the board game community has really picked up on.
Exactly.
As an issue that you bring into.
It's like you have multiple choices, so your brain shuts down and it's just like, I don't know what to do. You just stare at the board for a while, and then you're just like, I guess do that, and then you feel bad about it. This is a game where it's like, okay, there seems to be enough complexity where there's enough of a brain burn to it, so it's fun and enjoyable, but it doesn't slow down, which is nice because it keeps flowing. So that there's value in that, and I can definitely see why this would have been so popular, especially, you know, at that time.
Would you go so far as to say that it is good and basic?
I would. Clever.
Thank you.
You've done it.
So that was the Royal Game of Ur, in which I was duly massacred wholesale by Tom of Dog and Thimble. So that was fun.
Yeah.
A big thank you to Tom of Dog and Thimble for playing this game with us. Super fun to hear his commentary. Super fun to bring on an expert and be able to talk about the mechanics of the game and you know, what we can learn from about board games and about life. So a big thank you.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's been great to be back, and you know, it's, you know, I love what you guys do. I love getting a chance to play these older games because it does give me more of a basis and just to be able to see, like, oh, there were games before modern games that aren't all terrible.
And one of the things that's really fun there is strategy games are a really good place to come up against another human mind. And so, like, you get to know people so well when you play board games because you get to see how they respond to stress and how they respond to challenges and, like, how they make strategic decisions. And here, in a way, you get to experience not only the mind of, you know, Joseph from Good and Basic, but also the mind of the game creators and the game players who played this 5,000 years ago.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to just be able to go back and feel like you're just in those shoes, because you can tune everything else out and just feel like I'm having the same experience potentially that people years and years ago were, that we may be playing slightly different rule sets because who knows, but you know, the fact that we're able to look at this and make a game out of, like, a board and a vague understanding of what might have worked based on other pieces around it. That's fascinating.
That's really cool.
So in my Mesopotamian mind, I'm wondering if maybe I have just bet my horse and I have to walk home. So
You will not make a friend.
yes, correct.
Do not pass go.
Do not collect $200. We'd really encourage you to go ahead and check out Tom's podcast, Dog and Thimble, and you can find them on just about any podcast aggregator app. Stitcher, iHeartRadio, iTunes. The only one you can't find them on is Spotify, but any other you should be able to find them. We've also done an episode there just talking about the board game in a little more detail on their podcast, and so we'd encourage you to check that out and to check out the rest of the Dog and Thimble podcast. We've also linked in the description to Amazon where you can buy a copy of the Royal Board Game of Ur, and you too can bet away your horse and have to walk home, which will be lots of fun for you. Until then, just remember the board games are a lot of fun. 1,000,000 to 1 chances crop up 9 times out of 10. We'll see you next time.
Good night, Internet.
My mind really is blown.
We're going to have to just keep doing
1 in a million chances keep cropping up 9 times out of 10.